a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching Widow's Bay on Apple TV, Kevin on Prime Video, This Is a Gardening Show on Netflix, and American Gladiators on Prime Video.
So stay tuned to the end to find out BJ's favorite vegetable.
Oh, okay. That's a fun question.
I think I know.
Oh, I have a close second, so we'll debrief. But in the meantime, can you tell us what's happening in New England?
Yes, in much more interesting news, on Widow's Bay on Apple TV, we meet small New England town mayor Tom Loftus, played by Matthew Rhys, who refuses to believe the residents who claim the place is cursed.
So, Mitu, this is billed as a horror comedy. Do you think it successfully combines those two genres?
Yes, I love it. It is created by Kate Dippold, and this first episode was directed by Hiro Murai, and he's done a lot of Atlanta. He's a frequent collaborator with Donald Glover. He's done Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Katie Dippold did the Ghostbusters, the 2016 version that I'm obsessed with like Leslie Jones. And I think that this show really felt like those, where obviously those examples are lighter and not true horror. In this instance, I thought that this really balanced like being so spooky. Like I felt on edge through much of this episode, but it also felt so lived in. Like I felt like I really understood this town, and it was kind of cozy.
It was very cozy. We get the New England small town, island town vibe, where it's a tight-knit community where everyone knows each other. And I think they do a good job of weaving in spooky elements. We see spooky fog and the lights blinking. And the closest thing to like psychological scary horror, light spoiler, there's some jump scares, but nothing like gory and creepy.
No, but it was so scary right at the end for my fellow babies. This is not a spoiler. There's just so much tension in the last 3 minutes that I did, in fact, have to ask my partner to watch it for me. And I covered my eyes and I was like, is something happening now? And he was like, no, you can look. Is something happening now? Like I did that for a very long time because it was very, very tense right at the end. With that said, I will say maybe the last third of the show for me dragged a little bit. It otherwise felt very funny. They did the tension well, but I thought like it dragged a little bit and I felt like I got it. Like I get that something's going on in this town. There's something happening on a deeper level. We have this excellent supporting cast that is showing us that. And I think they could have just kind of tightened that.
I agree. The last third felt a little dry. They do a lot to lead up to this bigger mystery, this curse that's going on in Widow's Bay. And I think they didn't follow through with what they were setting up until the very, very end of that last third. And there's definitely some room where they could have tightened this episode so we can get to that, let's just say, interesting aspect of what's going on.
Yes, we have to be so careful with the spoilers, but it is a very fun reveal. And for my reading hive, the plot felt very similar to one of my favorite books that I've read recently, The Village Library Demon Hunting Society. It's a very similar vibe to that. I also loved the dynamic of Tom versus the town. A lot of the humor from this episode came from that for me. For example, he invites this travel writer to check out the town. His hope is that people will be excited to come and visit and that this New England town will be of interest for outsiders. And the writer, played by, shout out to Bashir Salahuddin, he goes to a museum unaccompanied by Tom. And when Tom comes in, the curator goes, I was just going to show him the witch trial. Great source of pride. We caught him. We burned him. And it just made me laugh so hard that was The play on that or the twist on that.
Or how they have a huge poster about cannibalism. And they're like, we didn't turn to it that quickly. Not that important.
The way that Bashir turns to the poster and looks back at Tom, I truly laughed out loud at that.
And not only is Tom versus the town a good source of humor, it plays into the spooky elements because we learn that there is a big difference between people born in Widow's Bay and people who just come to visit or live there.
Exactly. He lives there. His son is born there.
So me too, with that mystery, will you watch more episodes of Widow's Bay on Apple TV?
Yes, I will watch again seriously. I thought this was so funny, so lived in, so spooky. But I guess a caveat is I may have to watch again seriously with someone else, like you, like my partner. I need someone to look at the scary stuff for me. My very good friend and I were just talking about how we watched the movie Us with my partner, and he was telling us when we could look in the theater. And so I think I'll just need a friend through it because there is a lot of scary potential here.
Definitely scary potential. It could be a good team show. I would watch again casually. I'm interested in the mystery, but because that final third slowed down a bit, I'm not fully committing to watching regularly.
Fair. Well, why don't you take us from New England to New York City?
You're talking about Kevin on Prime Video. After his owners separate from each other, Kevin, voiced by Jason Schwartzman, an anthropomorphic cat living in New York City, moves into a pet rescue in Astoria. What did you think of this animated adult comedy?
I thought it was very strange. The anthropomorphic universe had some interesting rules where I thought it would be like Kevin can talk, but maybe his people don't understand that he can talk. But in the first episode, it's the premise of the show, as you've shared, or his parents break up. He decides to move into a pet rescue. And like all three of them talk about it. And I said, oh, okay. So it's like the rule is everyone in this universe understands all the animals can speak and they're all just sort of vibing together.
Yes. Animals speak English, all animals, but there are pets and there are wild animals. And it seems like any of them can also do human stuff, like go to bars. So it's blurred lines.
They can help open wine bottles.
And they can do weird stuff on the black market.
There are some strange sexual things that happen in this episode that is just quite a surprise when thinking this was just going to be a cute show about animals. But this is from the mind of Aubrey Plaza. So there, of course, is that edge to it. I think if you are a dark humor person, a gross out humor person, I think you'll like this because the wine opening scene, there's a scene where that same goose tries to pee. There's the Kevin's butthole is like a big focus of this whole pilot. There's a moment with some roadkill. There's a very sickly cat named Judy, voiced by Aparna Nancharla. A lot of stuff comes out of her. So if you're into gross out humor, I think you would really like this.
I agree. You need to be prepared for the gross out humor. And if you can push past that or just have an interest in it, you'll see that there's some great stories about found families and finding your place and understanding relationships. I think they hit some really serious topics with Kevin and his parents and also his parent and their relationship. So I was pleasantly surprised that there were some serious messages mixed in.
Yes, there is such a great potential for really sweet moments with this found family. They spent $1 billion on this cast. We have Amy Sedaris as a Shih Tzu named Brandy, who is the pet of the person who runs the rescue, who is also voiced by Gil Oziri.
Weird relationship, just gotta say.
It is a weird relationship. And then we have additional voices at the rescue. Whoopi Goldberg as this sassy feral cat, Jim O'Hare as this squirrel, the icon John Waters as a very fancy cat named Armando who will not let anyone fall for him. And then the potential of that group coming together, as well as, like you said, with these separating parents, the potential of both mom and dad. I think mom has some softening to do. And then for dad, he needs to grow up. And it might be with the help of a new friend spider who lives in his ear.
So with that, will you watch more episodes of Kevin on Prime Video?
I think I'll give it like 2 more episodes. If you are an animated comedy Hive person, while this episode was a little bit uneven, I think you'll like it. But for me, I don't do gross out humor super well. So if I give it a couple more episodes and there is more roadkill and things coming out of and going into animals, I think I will have to tap out. What about you?
I agree. This is a tough one. Maybe I'd say would watch while folding laundry to be a little distracted. I think this show has a lot of potential. Maybe they will tone down the gross out humor as the season goes on. And if they do, I could see myself enjoying this show. Okay, how about we leave New York and head to the gardens?
You're talking about This Is a Gardening Show on Netflix. Host Zach Galifianakis offers a fresh, funny, and fascinating take on the science of growing our food. In this first episode, we learn about apples.
We do learn some facts about apples.
Really like one fact and then maybe 5 little baby factoids in graphics.
Yes, my favorite part was meeting someone who works on an apple orchard and learning about the timing of the seasons, how you take care of the apples. That was very educational and interesting.
And I think what you're getting at, which I agree with, is I couldn't tell what this show was trying to be because I thought from the description offered by Netflix of this fresh, funny, and fascinating take on the science of growing our food that we would see Zach Galifianakis from jump on an apple orchard, maybe being charming, silly, funny, but learning from someone, this is what's going on with your food. Instead, in this, albeit short, like 16-minute episode, we spent maybe 5 minutes with the smart science apple person, and then otherwise spent like 8 minutes doing kids say the darndest things, where he was talking to kids and asking them things about apples, but not sharing information, just riffing with them.
Just gauging their interest in apples, their knowledge on apples. It felt like bloopers that were left in to the episode.
Like when one kid said that his brother didn't like apples because it made his tooth wiggly, like that's very cute, very funny. But I was like, when exactly am I going to learn? However, I did laugh when he started saying fake apple names to the kids. And at one point he said to the kid something like, do you believe that there is a species of apple called Diarrhea Town? And the kid said, maybe.
And that is smart. Maybe is a good answer.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know.
I don't know all the species of apples.
Maybe there is a Diarrhea Town.
Interesting marketing. And I think that's another shortfall. We didn't go into like the industry of apples. We do go into a bit of the history of when people started growing them. But Zach opens the episode telling us about how he has been a hobbyist gardener for 25 years. And I wanted to hear about his experiences, or maybe if he's going to start growing apples on his property.
It felt like he did not take himself seriously enough. Like he came up with this great idea. This is a great interest of his. And instead of trusting that we would find it interesting to see his garden, see this person's orchard he visited, he was like, I got to be Zach Galifianakis. I got to be zany. I got to have a kid ask me, why did the apple cross the street? And the answer is because it wanted to go poo-poo.
And that's a direct quote.
It is. I'm not making that up.
Well, at least he keeps us tight. You know, we're cutting from the orchard to the kids to some kind of interview sections with Zach. So while it may not be as educational as we want, he's not dragging it out.
I genuinely felt like the segment with the kids dragged. I'm sorry. I wanted more information. I thought the kids were so cute, but I checked the time. I was like, "Oh, this is half, we're 8 minutes in. This is half of this that we're spending on this log talking to these kids."
And that leads us to the question, is this really a gardening show?
My theory, my hot take is I wonder if they made this show for people to fall asleep to. The episodes are really short, so maybe not. But the music is so soft. There's dulcet tones. Everyone's speaking a bit softly. Even the closing credits are really, really soothing. And I wrote in my notes, are people supposed to fall asleep to this? Is that what this is for?
And not much happened. So maybe it is just white noise.
Or maybe this is a show for Zach Galifianakis.
100%. He made a show that he would enjoy. And props to him for that.
He is charming. I was charmed by him. I just wish I learned more.
I feel like he leaned into a caricature of himself.
Yes.
Because I think he's genuinely funny, and maybe he tried too hard in this one.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, would you watch more episodes of This Is a Gardening Show on Netflix?
I guess I would, and maybe I would just fast forward to the information because I enjoyed what I learned about apples. And I do think the show is nice to look at. It was literally beautiful. So maybe I would watch more episodes, but truly this is only because it's 15 minutes. If you are interested in a great food docuseries, if you really do want to learn where your food comes from, one that I love on Netflix is called High on the Hog, and I would recommend that instead.
Okay, maybe I'll check that out. I will not watch this one again. But I will ask you if there's some good episodes I should reconsider.
I'll learn about your favorite vegetable, I bet.
I don't know if I want him to do an episode about that and make poop jokes.
That's true. That would kind of mess up a lot of my meals. All right. So why don't you take us from the apple orchard to the battlefield?
You're talking about American Gladiators on Prime Video. This show returns with 24 contenders from across the country battling 16 fierce new gladiators in classic events like Joust, Powerball, Hang Tough, and The Wall, plus some new games. And at the end of the season, one man and one woman will fight their way to $100,000 and ultimate gladiator glory.
This was so fun. I do not remember watching American Gladiators in its original run, and I'm not sure if every contestant was being truthful talking about how they grew up on the show, but they had a great mix of the contenders or these contestants, classic background stories, the doctor who didn't want to be a doctor, but she chose that because that was the safer route than being a gladiator. And high-key, her mama was right, but we'll get back to that. The dancer fighting back from injury. We had a couple dads. We had a good group. And then I like that the gladiators, no matter the story and frankly sob story that some of these people had, they did not take it easy. People would get in that ring and be like, I'm excited to probably earn some money to put my kid through school. And that gladiator would be like, well, best of luck to you. And they would just knock those people out.
Yeah, that was so fun. The gladiators stayed in persona. They had these big personalities. They took it seriously. Even if some of these are silly games like the Joust. But they were having fun with it. We did have classic sob stories. But I also like that there were a lot of callbacks. Like you, I don't really have memories of American Gladiators, but it sounds familiar enough that I think I have seen episodes. But this was fun to see because it reminds me of American Ninja Warrior, which maybe that was based off of American Gladiators.
Now that you're saying it out loud, I'm seeing that, yes.
And so this was just really fun doing all of these cool games. But some of these games look dangerous. I know those floors look a little padded, but not padded enough for my liking.
I wrote in my notes, I don't even know what this is in reference to, genuinely. I just wrote, you tackle me like that in the Powerball, and I'm actually going to go home crying. I don't remember why I wrote that, but clearly I felt physically compelled.
Because Powerball, that was like one of the scariest games. The contestants have colored balls. They have to put them in different goals, and those can correspond to different points. But then they have gladiators who are literally just tackling them, pushing them, throwing them out of the way to stop them. It doesn't seem like they need to hold back. They're using all their strength.
This is a very, very light spoiler. There is a moment where Ayana kind of jukes a gladiator that was so fun. I was like, wow, she broke her ankles.
There were some impressive moves and
Yeah.
a lot of flipping.
With that, I love the way the games escalated. It felt like the first couple games, maybe you can get away with some luck. Like maybe you position yourself well, maybe you're just a little bit faster than the other guy or the other person, I should say. But as the games escalated, to me, they seemed more and more like just pure shows of strength. And then when we culminated in that eliminator, which really was kind of like an equalizer as well, because even if you have a lead, if you can't do some of these things, the other person is going to catch up to you. And so I thought the way they escalated it was really smart. And I imagine this was on the classic show too. So maybe I'm complimenting like what is a 30-year-old format at this point. But I just thought it was really smartly organized. I love the way it finished. And then it just had that classic element of like a final gauntlet that I found myself genuinely like on the edge of my seat in a way that I was not expecting to at all. Like I frankly was not expecting to care. And I was cheering people on to make it through this gauntlet.
It is fun to watch. And I think what helps is all of the games, simple rules, and some of them, especially the earlier ones, super quick. So it's easy to follow and pay attention to. And I like that you pointed out, because I didn't think about that. It escalates, so you get sucked in as the games get a little more complex. But at the end of the day, you really start to see this is all just a strength test. And the gladiators are gladiators for a reason.
And shout out to our co-host, The Miz, for Wrestling Hive. That was really cool.
And Roxy Diaz, the co-host. I think they did a good job.
Roxy and I teared up at the same moment.
And then we have the line, "There's no crying in American Gladiator," despite all of the contenders having sob stories.
It's true. Well, do you want to watch more episodes of this newly revamped American Gladiator on Prime Video?
I do. I would watch again, seriously. I think all of the games were so fun and easy to watch. And I think it's a show where I can enjoy watching it without necessarily following a particular contender or gladiator because everyone was entertaining.
I completely agree. I think I would watch with dinner. If you're searching for a fun show to watch that is one of these like American Ninja Warrior, apparently American Gladiator's son, but just in this vein of like watch people do wild things with their bodies, this is a good one. And they have such good personalities. Like you said, I loved one of the gladiators like lost a challenge and they asked him how he felt about it. And he just grunted and then walked away, like stormed off. And it was just like high soap opera drama. It was so fun.
What was that other show that was more water-based? Wipeout?
Oh, the one with the big... Yes, Wipeout.
Wipeout. So this is also in that genre.
That's probably American Gladiator's son, too.
They're all related. I wouldn't be surprised if there is overlap with the production team or the creators.
American Gladiator, you are a mother to many daughters.
And now we know. Thank you for educating us.
Thank you for your service. Happy Mother's Day coming up.
Okay, so, Me Too, do you want to reveal to the listeners what my favorite vegetable is?
What I think it is cabbage.
It is!
Yay! Come on, friendship.
I like cabbage, and a close second, sweet potatoes.
Oh, that's true. You are a sweet potato person. You always send me cabbage recipes and sweet potato recipes.
They're both so good. Cabbage is so versatile, and sweet potatoes are sweet, and I have a sweet tooth.
I actually just bought a cabbage this week that I'm about to Stir up with some onions. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I can't wait.
Ooh. Do you want to share your favorite vegetable before we sign off?
Greens. Any green. I'm a greens
Yeah.
person. I love greens.
Yeah. I'm glad you'll have some today.
Mustard greens, collard greens, turnip greens, kale. I just love a leafy green with a good chew.
So thank you for listening to this episode. You can find more at thepilotpodcast.com, and you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us for really, really interesting vegetable preferences on social media at The Pilot Pod. And you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, your favorite vegetable to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.